1, 2, 3.
Let's go.
So, imagine the scenario for a second. It is like 9 o'clock in the morning. You walk into the office break room to get a cup of coffee.
All right, the classic morning routine.
Yeah, exactly. But your boss, or maybe just a colleague you do not know very well, is already standing there.
Oh, no.
Right. You walk in, the door shuts behind you, and it is completely painfully silent. You have maybe 30 seconds before that coffee is actually ready. So what do? I mean, do you stare at your phone? Do you just run away?
It is honestly a terrifying moment for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That silence can feel really heavy.
It really, really does. And welcome to the deep dive, by the way. Today, we are looking at something that causes just so much anxiety, especially if you are, learning English or stepping into a completely new office culture.
Absolutely.
We are diving into a script designed specifically for A2 to B1 English learners. It's called English in Daily Life, the art of small talk, making connections at work. And, okay, let's unpack this. We usually think of professional life as like big presentations and serious meetings, right?
Yeah, the heavy stuff.
Exactly. But if those big moments are the heavy main course of a meal, small talk is the appetizer. I mean, it seems tiny, but it completely sets the mood for what follows.
That is a great way to look at it. Small talk is a vital skill.
So our mission today is to really figure out the exact mechanics of how to do this well. We are going to explore exactly how to use open-ended questions to create real interactions, and we will break down the specific idioms native speakers use to survive the workplace.
Yeah, because people often view small talk as this test they haven't studied for, or they think it is just meaningless chatter about nothing.
Right, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. But if you look closely at how successful teams actually operate, small talk is honestly a professional superpower.
A superpower. I like that.
Yeah, it really is. It is not about being some brilliant philosopher.
Yeah.
It is simply the most effective tool we have for building trust, right there by the coffee machine.
Well, I want to focus on that initial freeze in the break room. Because before you can build trust, you have to actually say the very first word.
The hardest part.
It is. I always struggle with how to start without sounding completely strange. What is like the most practical way to just open your mouth and begin?
So the easiest and honestly most reliable method is making what we call a situational comment.
A situational comment.
Right. You do not need to invent a fascinating topic. You simply look at the environment that you and this other person are currently sharing, and you just comment on it.
So you literally use the room around you, like the coffee or the printer or, I don't know, the weather outside.
Precisely. You are searching for immediate common ground. You might say, the coffee is actually pretty strong today, isn't it?
Yeah, that's easy.
Or if you notice something they own, you can use a simple compliment. Something like, I really like your laptop sticker. Where did you get it?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, compliments are highly effective because they immediately make the other person feel noticed in a very positive way.
I do have to push back a little bit on the weather thing, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, if I walk in and say, wow, it is really raining out there, I just feel a bit boring. Isn't talking about the weather a massive cliche?
It definitely have that reputation.
Right. It feels like you only bring up the weather when you have absolutely nothing interesting to say.
That is a really common fear, but it actually misunderstands the whole purpose of the interaction. Here's the underlying mechanism. The weather is not the actual conversation.
It's not.
No, the weather is just a ping. It is a social signal. You are basically just testing the waters to see if the other person is busy or stressed or open to talking.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. If they just say, yeah, and look down at their phone, well, they want quiet. But if they say, I know my umbrella actually broke on the way here, they have accepted your invitation to chat.
Oh, I see. So it is just a safe, low-stakes test.
Exactly. The real secret is what happens after that initial test. Once they respond, you must transition away from the weather and move right into open-ended questions.
Okay, open-ended questions. This is a huge piece of our mission today. Let's really break down the mechanics here, especially for our A2 and B1 learners listening.
Let's do it.
I know a closed question is a yes or no question, like, did you have a good weekend?
Right. And if you ask me that, I can simply reply, yes.
Yeah.
And
the
then
conversation hits a dead end.
It stops completely.
It is like throwing a ball at a brick wall. It just bounces back and falls totally flat.
That's a great visual.
So an open-ended question would be throwing the ball to a partner, forcing them to catch it and throw it back. How do we construct those mechanically?
You build them using W words. Who, What, where, when, why, or how.
Okay, the W words.
Exactly. So instead of the dead end, did you have a good weekend? You shift the structure. You ask, what did you get up to over the weekend?
What did you get up to? That is such a great phrase. It is a subtle shift in grammar, but the result is entirely different.
Completely different because of the psychology involved.
Okay.
When you ask a W question, you're essentially asking for a narrative.
Right.
You force the other person to provide details and construct a small story. They might say, oh, I took my kids to the park, or I just relaxed and watched a movie.
And then you have something to work with.
Exactly. Whatever detail they choose to share becomes the exact clue you need to ask your next question. This turns a flat exchange into a very dynamic, interactive connection.
You are giving them the space to direct the conversation. Okay, so the ice is broken. We asked an open-ended question, and now they are speaking.
They're talking.
But once the conversation is rolling, how do we steer it? Because I've definitely been in situations where a casual chat suddenly becomes incredibly awkward.
Oh, we've all been there.
There are definitely ways to crash a conversation.
There certainly are. If we look at the typical workplace, there are 3 massive conversational landmines, topics you must strictly avoid.
The big 3.
Yes. Politics, religion, and personal finances.
Okay, I totally understand avoiding politics and religion as those cause really obvious arguments, but why finances? Why is asking about money a landmine?
Well, it really comes down to power dynamics and deep discomfort. In a professional setting, people earn different salaries and have vastly different financial burdens.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so discussing money can instantly create feelings of inequality or jealousy or embarrassment. Your goal in small talk is to build cognitive trust and make people feel safe with you.
And you can't do that if you're making them uncomfortable.
Exactly. You cannot do that if you are wandering into sensitive, highly personal territory.
That makes total sense. You want to stay completely out of the minefield. So, what are the reliable safe zones? Where should we direct these open-ended questions?
The script highlights 4 incredibly reliable zones. First is work, but kept very light. Second is hobbies and interests.
Okay.
Third is food and travel. And fourth is entertainment, like asking about a recent movie or a Netflix show.
Wait, let me ask about that first one. Asking about work at work. Isn't that just, I don't know, working? How is that small talk?
It is all about the approach. You aren't asking them for a status report on a really stressful project. You asked something light, like, are you working on anything exciting this week?
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it gives them a chance to highlight something they're proud of without feeling managed or interrogated.
I like that. But I have to zero in on the food and travel zone, specifically food.
It's a popular one.
To me, food is the ultimate equalizer. Literally everyone eats. But I used to think asking for, like, a lunch recommendation was too personal for a colleague I barely know. Why does that work so well?
Think about human nature. People absolutely love being experts, and they love sharing their opinions when the stakes are low.
That is so true.
Right. If you ask someone for advice on the best local sandwich shop, you are practically giving them a compliment. You're saying, I trust your taste.
If you ask me where to get the best coffee near our office, I am going to give you a passionate 5-minute speech.
Exactly. It is an incredibly easy way to get someone talking happily.
Okay, so you ask about food.
Yes, it is highly strategic. But this brings up a really crucial point from the source material about the mechanics of listening.
What do you mean?
Well, it is not enough to just pick a safe topic, ask a W question, and then politely wait for your turn to speak. The true magic happens through active listening.
Active listening. I always hear that term. To me, it just sounds like making eye contact and nodding your head. Is there like a verbal component to it that learners often miss?
Yes, there is a very active verbal component. Passive hearing is just nodding. Active listening requires you to prove you heard the details.
Prove it. How?
Imagine you asked about their weekend, and they casually mention, oh, I mostly just walked my dog.
Okay.
A passive listener just nods and says, nice. And the conversation basically dies. An active listener catches that detail, the dog, and immediately uses it to formulate the next open-ended question. Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
Oh, wow. You are seizing the specific detail they offered. You validate them.
Precisely. You are essentially saying, I actually heard your story and I care enough to ask for more.
And that is the exact moment a polite robotic exchange transforms into a genuine human connection.
Absolutely.
Okay, I love this progression. We survived the initial silence. We asked about their weekend using a W question.
Yeah.
We actively listened and asked about their dog.
The connection is built.
But eventually, you actually have to go do your job.
Sadly, yes.
The break is over, and Honestly, the anxiety of being trapped in a conversation is sometimes worse than the anxiety of starting one.
A lot of people feel that way.
I always feel incredibly guilty ending a chat, almost like I am rejecting the person.
It is a very complex social maneuver.
Yeah.
Because how do you escape without destroying the positive feeling you just spent 5 minutes creating?
Well, obviously you can't just turn around and walk away while they're mid-sentence.
No, please don't do that.
That is like walking out of a movie theater right before the ending. You just leave all this unresolved tension hanging in the air.
Right. It abruptly breaks the social contract. To leave smoothly, you need a clear exit strategy. You need specific transition phrases that signal the end of the interaction politely.
What do those sound like in practice?
They often involve providing a socially acceptable reason for your departure. For example, well, it was great hearing about your dog, but I should probably get back to my desk.
Okay.
Or, I'd love to hear more about that restaurant later, but I have a meeting starting in 5 minutes.
I should get back to my desk. It sounds so incredibly simple. But why doesn't that offend the other person?
If you look closely at the psychology of that phrase, you are setting a firm boundary. You're saying, I must leave now, but you are placing the blame on your shared environment.
Oh, I see.
You are not saying, I am bored of this conversation. You are communicating duty calls. The workplace requires my attention.
That takes the personal rejection completely out of it. And I've also heard people use phrases like, anyway, I'll let you get back to your coffee.
Wait, so I'm framing my departure as a favor to them. Precisely. It is a brilliant linguistic tool. By saying, I will let you get back to your work, you are showing respect for their time. You assume they are busy and important.
That is so smart. And notice how these strategies usually pair with a positive closing remark, such as, have a productive afternoon.
Right, you seal the interaction on a high note. You leave them with that really good feeling.
Exactly. Now, to truly master this entire life cycle we just discussed, we need to look at the exact vocabulary. There are specific idioms native English speakers use at every stage of this process.
The core idioms.
Yes. These phrases are essentially the building blocks of professional fluency for A2 and B1 learners.
Okay, let's weave these together because it really is a life cycle. When you first walk into that silent break room, the atmosphere is heavy. It feels frozen.
Very frozen.
To fix that, you have to use our first idiom. You have to break the ice.
The literal image here is actually fascinating. Ice is cold, rigid, and it prevents any movement. It freezes things in place.
Figuratively, when two colleagues don't know each other, the social atmosphere is rigid. There is no flow of communication. When you comment on the coffee, you are gently breaking that rigidity.
The tension melts.
Exactly. The tension melts.
Yeah.
And the conversation can begin to flow like water.
I love thinking about it that way because literally breaking ice sounds, I don't know, kind of violent, like hitting a frozen lake with a heavy hammer.
It does sound a bit aggressive.
But socially, it is the gentlest, most welcoming thing you can do. So, okay, the ice is broken, the water is flowing. Now, you use our second idiom, open-ended questions.
Think of this phrase visually as well. A yes or no question is a closed door. You ask, they say yes, and the door just shuts in your face.
Damn.
Right. But an open-ended W question leaves the door wide open. It is a literal invitation for the other person to walk through and bring their stories, their personality, and their details into the room with you.
You keep the conversational doors open. And why are we doing all of this? Why are we breaking ice and opening doors? That brings us to the third idiom. We do it to make connections.
Literally, a connection is the physical linking of two separate things, like tying two ropes together or connecting electrical wires.
Right.
In the workplace, making connections means building a bridge between yourself and another professional.
It is not just trading business cards. It is weaving a whole web of relationships so that when you need help on a project, say 3 months from now, that bridge is already built.
Exactly. And once that bridge is built, you maintain it over time using our fourth idiom. When you see that person a month later, you use small talk to catch up with someone.
Catch up. This one is so visual to me. If I picture this literally, I imagine running on a track.
Okay, a track.
Yeah, and my friend is running way ahead of me. To reach them, I have to run faster. I have to physically catch up to their position on the track.
That is a perfect metaphor. Figuratively, when you haven't seen a colleague for a few weeks, their life has continued moving forward without you.
Right.
You don't know what new projects they are assigned to or how their dog is doing. By stopping to talk to them, you are gathering that missing information.
You are running forward socially.
Yes, you are running forward socially to be in the same place they are in life. You are catching up to their current reality.
That makes perfect sense. You catch up to their reality. Okay, so we broke the ice, we opened the doors, we made a connection, and we caught up.
The whole journey.
But now the coffee cup is empty. The break is over. This brings us to the final idiom, which is the core of our exit strategy. You must get back to something, like, I need to get back to my desk or get back to work.
This phrase implies a physical or mental return. You stepped away from your daily responsibilities to participate in this social interaction.
And now it's over.
Right. Now, you must move backward, returning to the state of focus and productivity you were in before the conversation started.
I must get back to the report. It smoothly closes the cycle. It is amazing how these 5 idioms tell the complete story of a workplace interaction from start to finish.
They really do.
They aren't just random vocabulary words to memorize. They are the actual tools you use to navigate the office ecosystem.
If you master these concepts, you understand the operating system of the social workplace.
So what does this actually mean for you listening right now? We have covered a massive amount of ground today.
We sure have.
We completely redefined small talk. It is not some annoying distraction. It is the appetizer that prepares the table for your career. We looked at how to survive that frozen silence by using your environment to make situational comments.
We also explored the mechanics of W questions. If you want a dynamic interaction, you must stop asking dead-end yes or no questions and start inviting people to share their narratives.
We navigated the safe zones, discovering why asking about food or Netflix shows builds cognitive trust, while asking about personal finances just destroys it.
And we learned that active listening isn't just nodding.
Right.
It is seizing a detail, like a dog or a hobby, and using it to keep the door open.
And crucially, we armed you with the psychology of the exit strategy. You now know how to frame your departure as a necessity, respecting both your time and theirs, so you can smoothly get back to your desk without burning the bridge you just built. Exactly. The ultimate takeaway here is that small talk opens doors to big opportunities. The quiet colleague you chat with about the rain today might actually be the manager who approves your project tomorrow.
You never know.
So here is our call to action for you. Don't let this just be an interesting deep dive you listen to on your commute. Put it into practice. Start very, very small to
You do not need to host a 20-minute interview in the kitchen.
No, please don't. Just try one element. Make one situational comment about the printer. Or ask one colleague a single open-ended question about their weekend and actively listen for just one detail you can respond to.
You can absolutely do it.
You definitely can. But before we go, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Throughout this deep dive, we have discussed small talk strictly as a professional superpower. We focused on break rooms and colleagues and office culture.
But think about the broader implications here. If mastering the mechanics of low-stakes, open-ended questions can completely transform your relationships with the people you are forced to work with, how might applying this exact same superpower to the strangers you meet in your everyday life reshape how you experience the world?
Wow. Taking the appetizer out of the office and serving it to the rest of the world. Imagine breaking the ice with your neighbors or catching up with the barista at your local cafe.
It changes everything.
That is a powerful concept to think about the next time you are just standing in line at the grocery store. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Talk to you next time.